So this story that I told by my mom ended up getting featured by Goldcast, and across social media, it got millions of views. And in this video, I'm gonna break down the 7 storytelling techniques that I use to be able to create a viral story so that you can become a master storyteller. My name's Andy Henriquez. I'm the founder of the Master Storyteller Academy and the Million Dollar Storyteller Mastermind. I've had the opportunity to work with companies like Bacardi, Office Depot, Pratt & Whitney, Accenture, NASA, and even Google. So let's go ahead and jump in and break it down. Technique number 1, you want to jump right into the story. When you're getting ready to deliver and share a story, you only got a few seconds to be able to grab the audience's attention and to be able to hold them. No long setups needed. Make sure you go right into your story and start pulling the audience in and having them hang on the edge of their seat. Watch what I do in this next clip.
Out of nowhere, she gets a knock on the door. When my mom opens up the door, the gentleman on the other end, he hands my mom these legal documents. She starts flipping through the pages, and then she realizes that the property is going to foreclosure. She picks up the phone and she calls them up. And she goes, "Hello? Oui, this is Marie. Yes, I received the papers in the mail. It says that the property is going to foreclosure. But I don't understand. Every month I pay the landlord on time. Every month I pay him. I don't understand why the property is going to foreclosure."
Technique number 2, no conflict, no story. You must introduce conflict into your story. When you're telling a story, if you're not taking the time to actually introduce conflict, then guess what? You're not telling a story. The only way that the audience is going to stay engaged is because something is happening in the story. And what's that something? Conflict, baby. Watch what I do in this next part of the story.
The lady on the line could tell that my mom sincerely did not understand what was going on. She said, "Oh, Marie, even though you've been paying the landlord money every single month on time, the landlord has a mortgage. The mortgage is attached to the property. Because of that, the bank has the right to foreclose. And so, ma'am, the property is going to go to foreclosure." And so my mom asked her, "Do you think that maybe I can go to the foreclosure sale? Whoever buys the property, I will be a good tenant for them. I will stay in the property. I will pay them the rent. Please, do you think that they will let me stay?" And you know what the lady told my mom? She said, "Ma'am, it's not even worth you showing up. Whoever buys that property is not going to want to keep your little restaurant in there."
Technique number 3 is based upon something that Maya Angelou said. She said that people may forget what you said. They may even forget what you did, but they will never ever forget the way that you made them feel. Technique number 3 is you gotta be able to introduce emotion and feeling, and there's a special way for you to do that. One of the fastest ways for you to introduce emotion into your story is to do some introspection at a very critical moment in your story. What were you thinking? What were you feeling? What were you processing around you? If you can go inside and draw from the emotion, you can transfer that emotion to your audience. Watch how I do it in this next clip.
So my mom was devastated. She's like, "This is how I take care of my 2 boys. I got all my life savings into this property." And so about 2 weeks later, my mom says, "You know what? I know that sometimes you don't just have to listen to what people tell you."
Technique number 4, you got to build suspense and create a plot twist. Jim Rohn, who was a mentor to Tony Robbins and also a mentor to Les Brown, in one of his audiobooks, The Art of Exceptional Living, he says something. He says, "Take me high, take me low, just don't leave me where you found me." In other words, we want to be able to take the audience on a ride. And one of the best ways for you to do that inside of a story is to create a plot twist, something that they did not expect. Watch how I introduce a plot twist into the story.
My mom shows up to the foreclosure sale. She's expecting a room full of investors, but to her surprise, there's only 2 people there: the auctioneer and the representative from the bank. Now, before my mom could realize what's going on, the auctioneer steps up to the podium and says,
Technique number 5, I call story performing. If you want to be a great storyteller, you don't want to just report the story. You want to perform the story. You want to find moments in your story that you can pull the audience in by actually performing it. Watch what I do in this next part of the story.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start the bidding process on 540 West Atlantic Avenue. If you're here to bid on the property, please raise your hand. And so naturally, the representative from the bank is standing over here. She raises her hand. My mom, who had no intentions on bidding on the property, doesn't even know how this thing works. My mom decided to take an act of faith and raise her hand. The auctioneer said, very well, we're gonna start the bidding process at $30,000. Can I get a $30,000? The representative from the bank is standing here, says $30,000. My mom's still in the game, no money, $35,000. It gets over here to the bankers, that banker says $36,000. This goes on and on. Now they're in the 40s, now they're in the 50s, now they're in the 60s, now they're in the 70s. It gets over here to the banker, that banker says $76,000.
Technique number 6, incorporate humor. Everything is better with laughter, including a story. You want to find a way to bring humor into the story. It humanizes you, it creates connection, and it's going to allow the audience to be so much more engaged. Watch how I incorporate humor in this next part of the story.
My mom's like, I might as well have some fun. I don't have any money anyway. We must be playing with some Monopoly money. And so my mom, attitude and all, my mom goes, $76,500.
Technique number 7, woo, this is the good one. If you've enjoyed all the previous techniques, technique number 7, this is what causes your story to go viral. This is the difference between a good story and a great story. I refer to it as the emotional payoff, but not just an emotional payoff that has a powerful message attached to it. This is what causes the story to go viral. In this next clip, which is the longest clip that I'm gonna show you, you're gonna watch how I tie all the components together to deliver a powerful, compelling, emotional payoff that is worthy of going viral. Check this out.
The representative from the bank is standing here with a clip pad. She picks up the clip pad and she says nothing. The auctioneer's got to keep the process going. He goes $76,500 going once, no answer. He goes $76,500 going twice, no answer. He goes $76,500 sold to who? My mom, the woman who had no intentions on bidding on the property. And so my mom is excited she won the bid. And then she's like, wait a second, I actually have to have the money. And so they told her, you got 30 days to come up with the money. And so my mom would go home. She'd pull out a notepad and she'd start writing down the names of all of her friends and all of her family members, one by one. And she would call them up and tell them the story. Some would lend her $1,000. Some would lend her $2,000. Some would lend her $3,000. Some lend her $4,000. Some lend her $5,000. And she's 3 days away. And she's still $30,000 short. And my mom's thinking, maybe this isn't meant to be. And then her telephone rings. And it's her friend Evoke. And when her friend calls her up, my mom says, Evoke, no, it's too late. I have 3 days. I still need $30,000. Evoke said, no, Marie, listen. I know you've been calling us. But me and my husband, we've been saving up money to buy a house. We heard you call us. We heard the voicemails. Right now, we've saved up $30,000. We prayed about it. We talked about it. And we want to lend you the $30,000. So my mom would go and get the money from Evoke and all of her friends and all of her family members. And she would drive over to the bank and get a cashier's check. She would get back in the car, drive up to Palm Beach, look at that big, thick cashier's window with the little hole at the bottom. My mom would proudly take that cashier's check and slide it through the little hole. And that day, my mom went from being the tenant to being the landlord, all because she was willing to show up. And so here's what I say to you. There are going to be times that you're going to be wondering, why should I keep showing up and working my business? Why should I keep picking up the phones and making the phone calls? Why should I keep fighting for my goals and fighting for my dreams? And what I want to remind you is that you got to show up for your life regardless of the circumstances. You got to show up in spite of the naysayers. You got to show up in spite of the conversation going on in your mind. You got to show up for your life. Because if you don't, nobody else will.
Wasn't that awesome? My mom's story always gives me chills. If you enjoyed this video and you want to get more great content, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video.